Hey guys, Dwindling Elves here, and welcome to Game 6 of my Escalation League at the Montreal Games Workshop. So this is the first game that's at 1,750 points, which is nice for me because I enjoy playing the larger games, and it also means that the lists are a bit more dynamic, and the gameplay is also a little bit more dynamic because you got more units on the field, and you can coordinate a bit more as well. So this game is against a Lizardmen opponent, so it's against the opponent that I played previous to this one, just previous. We wrapped up our 1250 game, and then we decided to play 1750. Scratched up some lists and got going. So again, I have the Lore Master of Hoeth, and he's got the Book of Hoeth, as well as the Golden Crown and the Dragon Helm. So he's got a 4-up, 2-up against Flaming. Then he has just a level 2 King Priest with Lower Heavens, and he rolled pretty well on his magic. He got Chain Lightning and Common to Cassandora, which are two spells that I do not want to face because they will absolutely wreck my army. Pretty vulnerable. I have a couple of flyers that are vulnerable to these. So deployment. So he has a Carnosaur, a lower level character on a Carnosaur on the left. Next to him he's got an Ancient Stag with the double blowpipes. Then a block of 20 Saurus, another block of 20 Saurus. Both have Spear and Shield. And then a Skink Priest level 2 on a Engine of the Gods Ancient Stag, and then 5 Cold One Cav with a Banner, Musician, I think maybe a Champion as well. So for my list, sorry for the proxy fest, I'm really just trying this list out. On the right, I have a Frostheart Phoenix, proxied by the Flying Chariot. I have bought the Phoenix since then, so in my next games, I will actually have a Phoenix. Then I have 20 White Lions with the standard Movement Banner and Musician. In there, I've got my Lore Master. Behind them, I've got my Griffin BSB. He's got the Enchanted Shield and the Dawnstone, as well as a land, so he's got a 2-up rerollable. Then I have 2 units of Knights, so 2 units of Silverhelms, 9 guys apiece with Banner Musician in each. And I'm proxying them because I haven't bought the models yet and I want to try them out before I commit to them. And then on the left I have my Eagle facing off against his Carnosaur, and I just want to try to frenzy bait that guy. Or just get in his way. I really don't want to deal with his Carnosaur. So my plan is to deal with his blocks straight ahead of me and try to delay these 2 monsters on the one side as long as possible. And I think I should be able to do that. If I get my Griffin and the Frostheart Phoenix into a unit, that should really, really put the hurting on. And then my 2 Night Buses into a unit would really help as well. And the White Lions can go where they're needed, as long as I can just delay those 2 monsters on my left flank. So Lizardmen get turn 1. He moves up pretty tentatively. He moves the Engine of the Gods into the woods, and he moves the cavalry up a bit. I think he's worried about my Frostheart Phoenix, which makes sense because I fly and stuff, so I can easily get the charge off on him. And then his 2 monsters move up as such. Yeah, sorry, I forgot to take pictures during his turn 1, so these are actually during my turn 1, but they still represent how he moved up. And then obviously in my turn 1, I flew my Eagle up in front of the Carnosaur so that he couldn't wheel around me or charge, or he'd have to pretty much reform and do nothing or charge. So Hylos turn 1, I move up aggressively for my White Lions because I'm not really worried about anything. And I want to get into combat with his lines as quickly as possible so that I can delay the Carnosaur so the Carnosaur can stay out of the game. I move the Frostheart Phoenix up tentatively as well. I'm playing a chess game here, making sure that it's a very long charge for those cold ones to get into my Phoenix. I'm hoping his cold ones go to my White Lions. That's it. I think I can wipe them out before they even touch me. Now here I make a stupid mistake, and I forget to move my Griffin BSB up, and that's just it's really just stupid. So my White Lions and my Phoenix are out of BSB range. Plus, it means that I can't charge turn 2 with my Griffin Lord, or my Griffin BSB, sorry. So that's just, another stupid mistake. The magic phase, I get off Whiston's Wild Form on these guys, and that's it. So I'm really, well, so the turn to him charging me. If he charges me, I would take that any day. It doesn't really matter. I think I'll clean up whatever gets in contact with me. So Lizardmen turn 2. He gets the charge off with his cold ones. It was a relatively long charge, and I am actually loving it. I'm going to hit first, and during the magic phase, rolled a 5, so my Phoenix is actually strength 7. So I've got 4 attacks, strength 7, hitting on 3s, killing on 2s. I'm really not worried about that. He's hitting me on... No, he's hitting me on 4s, but he's only wounding me on 6s, and I've still got a save, and I'm going to be hitting him first, so he shouldn't even have that many attacks back on me. So I look at this, and I'm like, oh, he just gave me those points, so that was great. And then on the left side, it was a bit of a rules query. I didn't want to push it. I've looked it up since. So what he did is he reformed his Carnosaur infinitely and walked around my eagle. And then he also shot my eagle with the Stegodon with the blowpipes. Now, I didn't think he could do this, but he said he could, and I didn't want to argue during the game. But I've looked it up since. Monsters do not get infinite reforms. They can wheel like anything else. So if we'd actually played it like that, his Carnosaur would have either got to reform once, or it would have had to charge my eagle. But again, I didn't push it during the game, so that's the way we played it, and that's fine. In the magic phase, he gets off the Comet of Cassandora, so it's marked by that tile in the center. So obviously I want to get out of the center as quickly as possible because I do not need that comet coming down and ruining my white lions or my 2 knight units. Yeah, so that's another picture of the eagle getting machine gun blowpipe to death. And then we go to the combat phase, and again, I thought this was going to be great combat for me. I fluff my attacks. So I have 4 attacks, I roll 3 ones to hit, and then when I roll a wound with my attack that did hit, I roll another 1. So I do no damage. He doesn't do anything to me, and he wins by 2. So I'm on a 7, and my BSB is like 2 millimeters out of range. He's just not touching. So I end up breaking and fleeing off the board. He ends up pursuing me, but it's just this is where my mistake, not moving my BSB, really just came back to bite me. So that's just my fault. Just stupid gameplay, a complete brain fart. So high elf turn 2, I need to get going because now I've got his Cold One Knights behind me, so they'll reform next turn and then they can rear charge anything. And I've got his Carnosaur coming in on my flank, so I want to get into those blocks as quickly as possible. I shuffle my knight units over, and my white lions make the charge into the Stegodon. That's a combat that I really, I think that's going to turn out well for me. I've got 12 attacks from the white lions, plus another 3 from my general, so I'll have actually only 14 attacks, hitting on 3s, and wounding on 4s, unless I get a wild form up. Yeah, so I should do some damage, I should win that fight, and then he's out of general or BFB range. So he'll be on a 6 stubborn at best. So I'm really expecting that to go in my favor, so I'm liking that, and I think I'll overrun into... I clipped it so that I overrun into a second source block, so I get that combat in. I also moved my BSB up this turn, so where he should have been last turn, he's there now. If I had moved him last turn, he could have charged into something else as well, but, that's just stupid play on my part. So my magic phase is a complete bust. I roll double 1s and fail to cast anything. Then, I go to the combat phase, I attack him, and, I get a bunch of wounds through, but he just makes up 6 up armor saves and 6 up ward saves like it's nothing, and I only do 2 wounds. He comes back at me and kills 5 guys. I end up losing combat? Does that make sense? Oh no, it's actually a tie. I win on Musician, but he's stubborn 6, and he holds. So this means I am in a world of hurt because I didn't kill the Stegodon, and now his Source are just going to charge straight into me. So I had to gamble, and it was a risky move, but it did not pay off. So as expected, in Lizardmen turn 3, his Source charge into my white lions. His cold ones walk up more, and his Carnosaur walks up in the side of my army, so that's going to hurt my guys. I need to get my knights out of there as quickly as possible. And the Stegodon, is encircling me as well. So I'm really just being outplayed here. I'm playing very, very poorly, and I'm just out of position. Then in the magic phase, I have to choose between stopping the comet or chain lightning, so I let chain lightning go through on my BSB Griffin, and would you know it, he does 4 wounds on the Griffin, and he kills the BSB rider on top as well, so yeah. So now my BSB is gone, and I won't get my Griffin to charge into anything else. So this game is just going south very quickly for me. And the pain train just keeps going. It's making stops at every yeah. It's not stopping actually. So we go to combat, and he pretty much wipes out my white line unit. I do another 2 wounds to the Ancient Stag. I try to put as many attacks into that thing as possible just to get their points, and so that I'm not being thunderstomped anymore. And try to get his mage off, but I can't get the wounds through. I only get 2 wounds through. But I do stick. So on my turn, I gotta get my knights out of there, so 1 charges into the Saurus unit, and I'm liking that. I might be able to win if I do enough damage. So he's in a forest, so he won't be steadfast if I do win. So that's going to help me out. And then the other unit goes into the Ancient Stag, and again there, I'm a bit worried. I don't think I'm going to do enough damage, but I just had to get him out of the way, because otherwise the Carnosaur was just going to eat me next turn. So if I get lucky, I'll win, and maybe he'll fail his stubborn test, but we'll see what happens. So in the magic phase, I get Ice Shard Blizzard off on his Saurus unit, and I get Wisdom's Wild Form off with Irresistible Force on the white lines. Now what ends up happening is, when I miscast, I do everyone in base contact take a strength 10 hit. So I end up killing one of my white lions. I use the Golden Crown to prevent a wound on my mage. Or maybe he doesn't take a wound, I don't know. But I actually end up killing the Stegodon with the miscast, which was really nice. It was an added bonus, and it was unexpected. So the miscast did what my white lions couldn't do in 2 turns, and actually killed the guy. So in the combat phase, yeah, I do 1 wound to a Stegodon with my knights, and he does 1 wound back. I forget that his Carnosaur general is actually giving him leadership, or his leadership level is actually 18. So I forgot about that rule, and he sticks on an 8. And on a 6 it would have been doable, but on an 8 with cold-blooded, it's hard to do. So they end up sticking. In this fight, he does 1 wound to me, and I do a couple wounds to him, and this is where I just have another brain fart. I win combat, but we play it as he's steadfast, but he's in a forest and he's not. So it's just stupid to part on my. I just forgot that rule, and that is gonna hurt me so much. If I don't know if he would have failed it or not. I don't remember what he rolled. But yeah, brain fart number 2. He's not supposed to be steadfast, but he sticks anyway. So now I'm just exposed to a flying charge, and that's just gonna hurt. Also, he's got a comet coming down right behind my lines as well, so yeah. So he charges in, and this is actually a picture at the beginning of the magic phase. So the comet goes off. It's strength 5. It kills 5 of my knights with a 2-up armor save, and does nothing to his Lizardmen unit that flank charged me. I mean, it didn't matter. I think I was going to lose a bunch of knights to that flank charge as well, but just like the luck just keeps heading down south, and the pain train just won't stop. And in the combat phase, as expected, he wipes out the rest of the Silver Helms, which means that the Source block is no longer in combat, and he's just going to reform those guys out of the way. I end up losing 1 other white lion, so I'm down to 2 guys. I'm down with the Banner Bearer and my general. So yeah, but luckily I'm stubborn and I keep sticking on leadership 9, so at least that's going well for me. So yeah, he ends up reforming those guys, and they're gonna charge those the other Silver Helms on the next turn. And then finally, I get a great magic phase, but it's a little too late. So I get Earthblood off on my white lions, the 2 guys that are left anyway. My Asthma, his weapon skill down, and I also get Ice Shard Blizzard off on him. So he's hitting me on 6s, and I've got a 5-up, 5-up. So that should really help me survive, and maybe keep my guys alive a little bit longer. But this is just now an heroic fight to the end, essentially. I'm just hoping that my lore master can make it through this game. If I can save his points, that'll maybe push it to a draw. So we kept fighting, but in the combat phase in the last turn, I just did a couple wounds, but he sticks. So Lizardman turn 5, his sword is charging the flank of my knights who have just been pillow fighting with the Sagadon. Neither of them have really been doing any wounds to each other. And then his cold ones charge the rear of my White Lions and Lore Masters, so that's just gonna hurt. So I think any chance that those guys have surviving is just decreased significantly, because they can maybe outgrind one unit, but to outgrind both units is going to be very, very challenging. So in the combat phase, he puts a wound on my Lore Master, but the White Lion is still alive, and I do 2 wounds to him, kill 2 knights, and I lose combat, but I'm still stubborn 9, so I stick. And as expected here, the swords just absolutely eat my knight unit, and they overrun and catch them. So Hyle's turn 5, we go to my magic phase, because this is all I have left on the board. I miasma and Ice Shard Blizzard his Saurus unit, and I do this because I'm going to put all my attacks on the Cav unit, and hopefully kill them, or at least kill 1 or 2, so they've reduced attacks, but I know I'm not going to be able to take out the Saurus, so I put the debuffs on them. And so that's what ends up happening. Put 4 attacks on the knights, and I end up killing 3 of them. The Saurus attack me and get another wound through on my Lore Master, but the White Lion is still alive. So, I've got 1 turn left. Can these guys make it through? That's all I'm hoping for. And I've still got decent magic up, so it's looking better and better. But this is where, again, I make a stupid mistake for the 3rd time. I end up winning this combat. And he's, leadership 7, but again, we treated it like he was steadfast, but he's in the forest, and I forgot that he's not supposed to be steadfast. So instead of leadership 7, he should have been 5. I don't know if it would have made a difference, but it's just things like that. It's like, if I had a chance, it would have been that. And I just a brain fart again. And then Lizardman turn 6, he ends up killing my Banner Bear, so all that's left is my Lore Master. I mean, to give him credit, I played with him poorly. I put him in a position where he couldn't win, and for him to survive this long is very cool and epic. I mean, at least it makes a nice story. Yeah, and then High Elf turn 6, he puts the last wound through on the Lore Master, and I'm tabled. So the after reaction report, I mean, this was a bad game for me. I don't think I played well. I made a couple of mistakes, and I overextended myself. Now, I got home, and when I started making this report, I looked at my list, and it turns out I'm only playing 1,625 points instead of 1,750. So that's 125 points that I'm down that I just forgot to... Apparently, I'm better at math than this suggests, but I misadded when I was making a list in the store. So to put it into perspective, 125 points is another 11 White Lions. That could have made it's another 9 White Lions, so that makes a huge difference in that combat. Obviously, forgetting to move my BSB was a big deal because it meant they couldn't charge anything turn 2 and got Chain Lightning to death, and also meant that my Phoenix didn't have a BSB reroll and also died. And yeah, units in force are not steadfast. I just gotta remember that rule. So I think this is just a very poor gameplay on my part. I made a bunch of mistakes that compounded on each other. Now it also illustrates a couple of weaknesses of this list. Obviously, I overextended myself, so my units weren't supporting each other, and that's my bad. But it also demonstrates the weaknesses of the Silverhelm buses. They don't break steadfast, and that's a big deal. So yes, the formation is very tight and narrow, and you can maximize attacks on a small frontage. But unlike Bretonnians, you don't get ranks, and I think that makes a big difference here. So I'm not sure if I'm going to keep playing with these Silverhelm buses. I think units of 6, or 1 unit of 6 or 9 is very good as a support unit, but I can't use these guys as my main blocks. So this is a very good learning game for me. I think it highlighted what not to do. and it pointed out some key weaknesses that can be exploited against me. So yeah, I had to lose one eventually, but I learned something. Hopefully you guys learned something, and hopefully you enjoyed it. All right, bye.